Welcome back to Jonas Clothing YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking all about corsets. In this video I'm going to tell you how to measure for a corset, the history of corsets, how to find a corset that's best suited for you, and how to style a corset. Throughout history, corsets have been used as both an undergarment and also as an overgarment. They've been used as shapewear to wear underneath a dress, and nowadays as more of a fashion statement to wear however you like. Now, the exact origin of the corset is unknown, and it is also said that they go back to 16,000 BC, way back in the past, and have been worn by men and women alike. Now, there really is a very long history about corsets, but we're just going to start from the Victorian era, which most of us today know was a very tightly corseted era. The Victorian corsets didn't just end at the hips, but flared out and reached several inches below the waist. The corset was about the illusion of a smaller waist, as well as making the Victorian woman look more respectful and improve posture. Tight lacing did happen, but it wasn't practiced by everyone, and in fact most women wore lightly boned corsets which gave support and a respectful shape. Moving on to the Edwardian era, from the 1900s to the early 1910s, there was more of a trend towards a straight front corset. This particular corset was designed to be less hazardous on the wearer's health and a lot easier to wear than the Victorian corsets, but it came with its own risks as well. Corsets worn in the Edwardian era had more of an S-bend curve, formed by a straight front and a curved back side. Less constricting than their Victorian predecessor, the Edwardian corset did not come without its own problems. Whilst it did not constrict the abdomen and internal organs quite so much as the Victorian corset, because of the shape of the corset, it caused more problems around the back. As we go into the 1920s, the body image and fashion trends change, and there was more of an athletic, straight up and down silhouette, as you can see with the flapper dresses. So this in turn made the typical corset decline, and what took place instead was a more kind of athletic corset. This corset was designed to slim the hips and give more of that typical flapper-esque vibe. Corsets in the 1920s were designed to slim the hips and give a youthful stature, and would be worn as an undergarment with a chemise or a flapper-style dress over the top. This was the era of the flapper girls, who needed freedom of movement, so corsetry veered towards a more cylindrical, elastic style. Moving on to the 1930s and 40s, there was more of a desire for a fitted and more structured silhouette. In the 1930s, a more fitted silhouette began to emerge. Corsets continued to be mid-thigh length, but began to include built-in brassieres. Throughout the first half of the 1940s in World War II, luxury fabrics were difficult to obtain. Therefore, there was more of an emphasis on the functionality of the corset, with lace-up fastenings and elastics being used instead of zippers and steel hook and eye closures. Rolling on into the 1950s, the waspy became a very popular choice. This was about 8 inches wide and was designed to be shapely but still rigid, and was often worn underneath garments. The hourglass figure rose in popularity during the 1950s and saw undergarments with a more defined waist and bust. During this era, long-lined bras were popular, with additional bone shaping and support down to the waist. During the 1950s, girdles were also worn in preference to a full corset. These were a figure control garment that helped create a slimmer silhouette. Now, before we move on to the 1980s, you might be wondering why there's not a 1960s or 70s. During this era, not much happened with corsets. In fact, they were in decline and people took to more of a healthy lifestyle. Now, how can we have a corset video without talking about Dame Vivienne Westwood? Vivienne Westwood brought corsets back into popularity with the rise of the punk scene and embracing underwear as outerwear. This era saw a transformation of the typically restricted Victorian corset into a symbol of female empowerment. In the 1990s, we saw Madonna's Blonde Ambition tour with the legendary costumes designed by Jean Paul Gaultier, which re-cemented the popularity of the 1950s style corset. Let's talk about the difference between an overbust and an underbust corset. Now, to start with, both of these corsets are different material. This is a leather corset and this one is a satin finish. But that aside, here is the difference. So with an overbust corset, this is essentially is a top. So this will have usually a sweetheart neckline at the top, and it will come all the way down to the hips. And these are great for pairing with jeans, with trousers, with a skirt. This is essentially an all-in-one outfit, and obviously it laces up at the back and will still cinch you in. With the underbust, these are good for layering on top of clothing, so on top of a dress, on top of a shirt, and they will finish just under the bust. Some of our underbust corsets have a little bit more of a kind of V shape going in, so they shape the bust underneath. Others are a little bit straighter, and these will generally go under the bust and down to the hip, and are really good options for styling over the top of dresses and shirts. So let's talk about the difference between a long line corset and a waspy type corset. So because of the shape of the long line corset, it goes down past the hip. So as you can see, this is a little bit wider here, and where it will cinch you in is a little bit lower on your stomach. So if you have a longer line torso, then this one is better for you. So with the shorter line waspy type corsets, these sit a little bit more like a belt around the waist, and they allow for much better movement and are a lot better suited if you have a shorter torso. So we also have some latex corsets, and I'm just going to talk to you about the difference between the two. So this one right here is a sweetheart boned corset top, and as you can see, it's got some boning structure in it, and on the back it is a lace-up one, so you can really cinch in with this one, although probably not as much as a regular corset because obviously it's latex, but you can still get that nice cinched in effect, and with the boning and the structure of it, it really fits beautifully. So this is the latex corset on. As you can see, it's not quite as extreme as a normal corset because of the nature of the material. Latex is not going to cinch you in as much as a regular corset. However, you still have quite a nice sculpted effect because of the boning. It's surprisingly really comfortable, and yeah, because latex is genuinely very flattering anyway and cinches you in, so yeah. And this is the corset from the back. You still get that really nice sculpted corseted effect without it being super uncomfortable. This one here is an underbust. This is more of a waist cincher, so there's no lacing on the back of this one. However, because of the boning and the zip and the buckles, which you can adjust to size, this is really good to give that kind of effect. It's not going to cinch you in loads, but it's a great addition to an outfit. It will really add in that extra waist definition because of the structure of how this sits under the bust. So the most important measurement to take when you're measuring for a corset is, of course, your natural waistline. If you're not sure where your natural waistline sits, then what you can do is just stand up straight and go side to side with your torso and see where your body bends, and that should be around about where your natural waistline is. When you've found the smallest part of your waist, you're just going to take the tape measure, make sure it is parallel when you put it on and not falling down too much, and see what your natural waist measurement is. Remember not to pull it too tight. We want an accurate measurement as possible. And once we have our natural waist measurement, you want to choose a corset that is 4 inches below your natural waistline. So if your natural waistline is 26 inches, you would choose a 22-inch corset. Now, if you're completely new to corsets and you're worried about trying it, I would suggest only going 2 or 3 inches below. We have waspies available which reduce just by a couple of inches. How to lace up a corset by yourself. If you haven't got anyone to help you, or you're just feeling brave and want to do it by yourself, here's how we do it. When you first get your corset, you will see that it's already been laced up at the back and tied in a big bow. So as it's already been done up at the back, it is not possible for me to put this on. Before we put it on our bodies, you want to loosen all of this. So to loosen up the corset, it makes it a lot easier if you lay it flat on a table, and then laying it on its front, undo the bow at the back. From here, as you can see, the little crisscrosses all the way down gradually pull on each of the crosses all the way down, and as you can see, that is pulling it through already. When you finish loosening it up, it should look a little bit something like this, and this will make it so much easier for getting it on. Now we've unlaced the corset, it should hopefully be a lot more comfortable to put it on. So just going to put it on around me and make sure that this bit is tucked in. And we're just going to hook all of the clasps up. So the first thing you're going to do when tightening up your own corset is you're going to gradually pull on all of the outer layer laces. Work your way all the way down the corset, and once you've done that, tighten up the underlayer laces. And to finish, using the two laces in the middle, tighten up the corset to your desired effect. To tighten up a little bit more, you can go back in and gradually pull on the other laces. And make one final pull in the middle of the corset and then tie up in a neat bow from the back. Now I'm going to show you how to lace up a latex corset, and this is a little trick that I learnt from Kyra Neko, who was here a few weeks ago, and honestly it's a game changer. So what you're going to do is lace it up, crisscrossing up to about halfway on the corset, and then from here we're going to thread vertically. So notice how we've just crisscrossed all the way up, but this one you're going to go vertically onto the next loophole. So it should look a little bit something like this, and this is going to come into action later. And then from there you're just going to crisscross all the way up to the top. So now we've crisscrossed the corset all the way up to the top. To get a really nice, neat effect, what we're going to do is with these two bits at the end, you're going to just loop it around your finger. Try and go right to the end if possible. And tie in a little knot. Now we've done that, what we're going to do is taking those two vertical bits in the middle, you're going to gradually pull on the corset, and as you can see, the bits at top will be going down. And once you've got to your desired effect, you're going to just pull it in and tie in a nice neat bow at the back. Styling an underbust corset can look really cute with a pretty feminine dress, and I just absolutely love the juxtaposition of using a really floaty feminine dress with a tougher leather corset. And if a floaty dress isn't your vibe, then the underbust corset can also look great with a more sleek midi fitted dress. An underbust corset can also work really well with a PVC skater skirt and a sheer blouse top. It can also be used to style over the top of a shirt to give more of a cinched in feminine effect. An overbust corset can look great styled with jeans, trousers, or like shown here over the top of a dress. The latex corset top can be styled so many different ways. You can either pair it over the top of regular black trousers with a latex midi skirt, a skater skirt, or latex leggings. So now we're going to style the underbust latex corset, and as you can see, this particular dress here is perfectly suited for the corset shapes. It's got that beautiful V-neck underbust, but adding this corset in is just going to give it a little bit of extra oomph. And yeah, as you can see, not having a completely block red colour and adding in a black corset into the middle has given that illusion and drawn the eyeline to the waist. So this is a really good option if you want to accessorize on a plain, simple latex dress. It's not going to give you a crazy amount of cinching in, but it does really give that nice illusion and adds a little bit something extra, which is exactly the point of this corset here. As you can see, there are so many different ways to style a corset, whatever your style or aesthetic.